Good morning. How are you? Well, it's getting warmer. Soon maybe we'll complain about how warm it is, but I'm ready for that. I can handle that. Um, I see that the trial in Minnesota with Chauvin, the police officer who basically killed George Floyd, is still selecting jurors. And I learned several things about the case that are distressing, but not unusual. You know, people think of a jury of your peers as a fairly arrived at group of people who will give you a just trial. But it appears that these jurors have been chosen from a section of the county that is more white than the rest of the county, number one. Number two, we've seen how the defense has tried to limit the number of blacks on the jury. I understand that. It's unconstitutional, but I understand it. And as I understand it right now, there are 6 jurors who are of color, persons of color. Now, I don't know what they think and so forth. It's not enough to presume based on a person's color or religion or whatever that they're your juror. But trial lawyers make certain shorthand decisions in order to get a, quote, favorable jury. So that's certainly going on. The judge only has 2 alternates, so he's going to have 14 jurors. 2 alternates means if something happens to one of the regular jurors, they choose one of the alternates. I don't know how long this case is, but there's a real danger if you don't have enough alternates. Meaning, I don't know if they shouldn't have had 13 or 14 jurors, because if you have less than the jury that you're allowed by law in the state where you're trying the case, then it may be unconstitutional and you have a mistrial and you have to do it all over again. The case in particular strikes me as a difficult one for the reasons we've discussed before, which is that the defense will be emphasizing kind of a shrug of the shoulders that he's done this before to people and there's been no problem, and the defendant, now victim, now dead, was just more sensitive than others. And hopefully the prosecution will say he intended to kill for the reasons we said before. So that's where I see that case. In terms of interesting prosecutions, the outgoing U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, who has been prosecuting up to, I think, 400 people now, or those he expects will be charged with crimes, is leaving to go back to Florida. And he said that he sees additional charges for sedition can be found in that case. That's pretty interesting stuff. Somebody asked me, do you think that that's inappropriate? Well, there are 2 views on this in my mind. One is that he hopes by saying that, perhaps to encourage some people to cooperate when it can still matter, and thereby get information that will help in the case, even though he's not going to be handling the case. The second is he's taking a vanity bath as he goes out the door for himself on national TV, saying somewhat sensational things, but things that I can believe and hope are true, is that will go further than just, you're present on the Capitol, you had a gun you shouldn't have, that you were really involved in sedition and other high crimes and misdemeanors that implicate people other than the demonstrators, to quote the rioters, the insurrectionists. So there is that. The other story that interests me is there are Republicans who are trying to discourage having the 60 vote rule lifted, the filibuster rule, by trying to have cooperation between Republicans and Democrats in the chambers. And obviously where there's a hair's line, it's not impossible, but you'd have to have 10, right? So you have the 50 and 10 more to have the 60. Now, if Republicans can do that, then there may be other modifications one may make to the the filibuster, including the ones favored by the president, which is to have the old rule. That is that you take the floor, you stand there, and you talk. And when you lose that space, then the vote occurs among the senators. So it's a hopeful sign, but I wouldn't get excited about it until I actually saw an example of it working. The Democrats have decided to fight and go forward. That's good, because that also may encourage some senators not in the leadership who think the Senate has to do something more than just exist. So it's a beautiful day. I hope you get out, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.